Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. How's it going?
Good. Good. Happy Wednesday. Episode 11, Ray. I'm excited to jump in. It's been a little bit of a roller coaster for ETH over the last 24 hours, but I think I'm getting to the point now where it might just be better to start ignoring it and just be like, hey, it's going to be steady there for a little while. I don't think there's any chance of a rally anytime soon. So kind of, I know you mentioned that a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely a bit. I try to just check in the morning, check in the evening, just get a general pulse. Following that could take a few years off your life just watching the swings we're seeing in the market right now with the price of ETH and crypto in general.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, to everyone that's watching, welcome to the WGMI Morning Show. This is where we bring you everything and anything you need to know about the NFT market in 30 minutes or less using WGMI's various tools and features that we have to offer. We hope to give you specific news and different piece of analytics that you may be missing from other tools or features that you may be using elsewhere. And we hope to give you that competitive advantage in this market, which we know we all need. If you like what you're seeing, be sure to DM us and let us know, provide us some feedback, and join our Discord. The invite is in our profile, WGMI.io, and also DM us the word newsfeed for a chance to win a 7-day trial to use all of our tools. Some of the broader market stories we're going to be covering today. The first one is there were 3 massive trades regarding Yuga assets yesterday. There was an M3 mutant that sold for 1,000 ETH. There was a trippy ape that traded for 3 apes, 3 kodas, and an ape land. And there was also a mega koda that sold for 200 ETH. We'll break that down and we'll dive into some of those wallets that were involved in it a little bit later in the show. You don't want to miss that. Secondly, ETH continues to take us on an absolute roller coaster ride. I know yesterday we were talking about it on the show, Ray, that we were hoping it was up in the upper 1300s. You're going to look for a break into the 1400s. That obviously did not play out. We'll talk a little bit about that later. Ray, any big takeaways from yesterday?
Yeah, it was great to see that capital being moved around in the market. I think today is going to be another potential big day in terms of capital being thrown around the market. We'll talk about that a bit later with the QQL drop and what that may look like. Good to see that activity at the high end, always important, hoping some of that trickles down. It'd be nice to see more of this, more activity. I know back in the bull market, you would see, a few of these big sales on a daily basis. It's nice that they're starting up again. But I don't like how they're like individually newsworthy events now, whereas before they were more commonplace. So hopefully this might kickstart something. We might see more of these assets being moved around, some more value, some more liquid being pushed back into the market. So definitely something to watch out for. And like we said, we'll break down these some of these trades and this wallet a bit later in the show.
The other thing that would be good to see just on that note is like, or just potentially think about is like, okay, where like this person, let's just say one of these individuals received 1,000 ETH. Where are they going to put that ETH towards to be that trickle down effect into some of these other collections? That's definitely something to monitor. Or is that money just being taken out of the ecosystem? Because if that is being used and it is trickling down, that is a net positive for the space. But overall, it is good to see some of these bigger whales still be bullish and still be excited about what's coming, especially during these times of the market. Moving on to the market report. This is brought to you by WGMI Newsroom. It is the news account for WGMI. This is where we post some of the pieces that populate our news feed, and every morning we provide you a little market snapshot. In the market snapshot, we have an OpenSea volume of 11 million that was brought in yesterday. The NFT collection sorted by 24-hour volume. We have Punks leading the way at 943 ETH in volume. They had 15 sales yesterday, which was a high since July 10th. You see the apes coming in at 4.6, other deed at 355. And it was interesting to see how in the one-day chart, we did see a little bit of rally over Punks compared to the apes, but apes still have that 7-day volume advantage. Other thing that I noticed, Ray, was the 7-day listings, a lot of red here. And that could be because of some of these runs that we saw from CloneX, from the Apes, from Other Deed, and people are wanting to take some profits, but that's something to take inventory of. Also, what I noticed was Heads by Matt Fury had a little bit of a run yesterday. They went from 1.7, now they're sitting at 2.1. Something else to be take account of as we continue to monitor the rest of the day. Ray, if I'd love to get your thoughts on maybe some of the things that you're seeing here, and then start moving on towards the news feed piece of the day.
Yeah, great to see the the volume for the blue chips. I'd like to see it a bit higher there, but volume is volume nonetheless. I saw there was a large sweep on the Heads collection. I looked into that wallet. There wasn't too much notable in that wallet outside of just the Heads in terms of value. I think what they swept, maybe 40 some of the Heads assets. It was about 80% of their portfolio. So I don't know if that was a burner wallet. Didn't dive into how it was funded, any other wallets that may be connected to it. But just took a quick look there to see if there's anything of interest. But mostly Heads. And I think a lot of people are looking at this collection as a more longer term bet where there's provenance, there's relevance with
Right.
Matt Fury creating the Pepe meme, and then that will be lasting. Maybe more of a long term bet than it is a short term bet. I know that the unique ownership percentage is around 50%, so that's pretty low for a collection like this. It also differs from other collections in that it's, each piece is a one of one. There is no rarity. It's basically you're only picking, what vibes with you. It's 1,000,
Right.
one of one pieces he's created. So interesting to see how that will play out and how that works over time, for sure. That's about all I have to take on the dashboard for now. I can jump into the news from our news feed unless you have anything to add.
No, that'd be great. Please do.
All right, so we're diving into the newsfeed here, brought to you by WGMI. We launched this tool a few weeks ago. It provides you with the actionable, valuable updates, not only for your holdings, but across the NFT industry at large. We'll start off today talking about QQL, the project by Tyler Hobbs and Dandelion Wist. This is minting at 1 p.m. Eastern today. It's starting at, it'll be a fair Dutch auction, so whatever price it lands at, that will be the price everybody pays. It's starting at 50 ETH. It's resting at 2 ETH. They have a nice UI for the Dutch auction here. They're minting out 900 of the 999 via this mechanic. I think they said they pre-minted 9 or so, the winners of the contest, as well as some others by Hobbs and Wist as well. And I think they're reserving the remaining 90 or so for giveaways or promotion or something along those lines. But it'll start at 50. It's going to run down. It looks like it's dropping to 48 in its first step. I don't know if it's going to drop by 2 ETH every time. It may kind of be a logarithmic curve, something like that. Definitely watching it. And like we were saying before, or I was saying before, another, liquidity event where is that money still on the sidelines? Because this is a project that I think a lot of major collectors, investors will be looking at. You look at, Fidenza by Tyler Hobbs, and the floor for that is, well into the 80s last time I checked. Collection size is similar. There is the provenance of this being kind of historical, having that original, being Tyler Hobbs' original entry into Art Blocks, being an early Art Blocks collection. So looking here at a floor of 96, I wonder how many people are going to sit there and say, hey, I need to make sure I have one of these QQLs. I'm jumping in right at the gun. I'll be definitely watching that volume to see how that plays off. But 50 ETH, for a mint is quite pricey to start with.
Crazy. Well, first, I'd love to hear your price estimate if you have kind of a target of where this might land. And secondly, if you put in, like, if I go ahead and buy one at 50 ETH, but it ends up selling out at 30, I'm assuming I get the refund. I get the 20 ETH difference.
Exactly. And this mechanic almost, drives a bit of that hype early. It's like, hey, I want to get in right away. If I wanted it 50 ETH, I'm getting in early. If I want to make sure, like, I don't have to watch for volume and everything, I'll just jump in early. I'll pay whatever it ends up at. So these sort of mechanics can lead to a higher price than what the market dictates. I think personally, in terms of like where it will land, I think it has a better chance at minting out above 40 than it does below 10. If I were to bet, I don't know, I'd say somewhere in the 30 to 40 range we see it mint out. I wouldn't be surprised if it mints out higher, though.
Yeah.
It's really just that it's really just that question: is that liquidity on the side waiting for this drop?
I think, to be honest with you, I think it 100% is, especially with some of these bigger players. I don't know I don't know what it's like to be in their shoes, but I'd assume they've got some deep pockets, and even if they don't, like, I wouldn't be surprised if we see some people using some of their apes to gather some liquidity and say, hey, I'm going to put this on, lend it out, make some money on it. So I think this is kind of these can't miss collections that people are really looking to get into. So I think there's definitely going to be some liquidity and some big whales sitting ready to deploy some capital.
Yeah, very interesting to see, and I think the whole market is going to be standing still watching this at 1 o'clock when this does release, 1 o'clock Eastern, that is. Moving on, we have a merch drop by Lazy Lions today. That's dropping in 15 minutes. So if you own a Lazy Lion, you want some of this merch, get in there quickly. It sold out, I think, an hour last time.
Wow.
So definitely jump in on that. Some news out of Quantum Key. There is a new drop by Kim Asendorf. He is a pretty prominent artist on the Tezos marketplace. It's called Traces. It's a collaborative project with his wife. We'll have more drop details as that kind of unfolds. It looks like it'll be Dutch auction here, October 6th. He has a generative art style. This looks, sort of familiar to some of the works he does on FX Hash. Starting off at 1 ETH, looking at some of his collections on FX Hash. I believe their floors are in the 200 to 300 Tezos range. Converting that to ETH is about maybe 600, 700 USD. So 0.3-ish range, somewhere in that area. I think this is one of his first projects on ETH. I'll be interested to see this one, see what goes on over there. Also, the Quantum Key project released more information on the Quasars project. There's a new mission. We have the pre-mint link on our site. You can enter there. I think you just have to retweet a tweet. They're coming out with these missions every week. I think it's going to play into allow list access to that Quasars mint. It could be a valuable one. We'll keep you updated as we follow along, making sure you're not missing any of those missions, making sure you have that access to mint, a project that could potentially be valuable. Moving on to 10KTF, we had a space last night with Matoshi, our 10KTF curator. For those unfamiliar with how we curate our newsfeed at WGMI, we source analysts to cover a broad market spectrum, and then we source these deep ecosystem experts who are, spend their time in these ecosystems. They know all the ins and outs, and they can provide us with the most important information for you as a holder. Matoshi curates our 10KTF and World of Women projects. We sat down with her for about an hour yesterday. We have the recording linked here. We talked all about 10KTF, where it got started, how she got involved, where all the assets fit in, what assets could be a good deal, where we're looking at going forward. The season 1 just ended for 10KTF. Season 2 is on the horizon, basically trying to figure out what could potentially be good plays and what the different assets, how they may figure into the whole storyline going forward. I know you were pretty new to 10KTF ahead of that. Did you come out feeling a bit more confused or less confused?
I liked it. No, it was good. It definitely helped clear up a lot of the questions that I had. For me, just as an outsider point of view, I like learning about, like, hey, what's the history behind it? What's the purpose? What initially caused people to get involved? I think the biggest, and then trying to figure out, like, okay, this is my theory behind, or thesis behind, why this could work or why this can't work, or what's the upside and the downside. And for me, it was more like, okay, do you believe in the team behind it? Essentially, do you believe in the connections at Beeple and this? I forget what their name is, Wumbo Labs or something.
We knew.
Do you believe that they can, that through their partnerships they can drive value to this collection in terms of driving, partnering up with new collections and bringing in new users into this ecosystem? And then through that, is that going to, if that does happen, where is that likely to drive the most value to? So once that clicked, I was like, okay, now this starts making sense. Now I can start looking at what specific pieces I can look towards picking up. And then once that comes up, once I do pick up that first piece, I'm very confident in the fact that then once you put money towards it, your brain immediately starts focusing on, like, okay, what's going on here and tracking it subconsciously. So it was definitely helpful, and I look forward to doing more of those with different curators going forward.
Yeah, for sure. I know 10KTF was one that I got more involved in and understood as soon as I invested. And once you put money into a project, you do become, invested, both, financially, and then, your time. Like, you're spending time looking at it. Okay, why is this asset moving the way it is? You dive a little bit deeper, you understand the ins and outs, and it becomes much easier to understand from the inside. And I like that we kind of talked about different layers too of how the project works. There is the initial layer of, these are the assets, here's how you send them on missions. But also we talked about, like you were saying, hey, like, this is the scarcity, this is how you have to create these assets, where they're bringing in new projects all the time. There's a scarce amount of assets for these new projects to create, the final, hats and shirts and hoodies and high tops and all those assets. Maybe some of those scarce resources are the entry point. So it was definitely interesting. Always love talking to Matoshi. Did a great job there. If you're interested in 10KTF, I highly recommend you take a listen. Kevin Rose and Tim Ferriss sat down for a podcast. I'm about halfway done this one. I was really wanted to see if he was going to talk about NFTs at all, Tim Ferriss, and if his Twitter account where we kind of showed earlier that Tim Nifties. I can bring that up, if that is actually his, and is that is there any sort of hint on will there be an allow list? Will there be any kind of access, or how do we get in early? So we've surfaced this Twitter account maybe a week ago at this point, when there's only 100 or so followers. Definitely one to watch, and I'll be listening to the rest of that podcast to see if there are any hints dropped.
Love it. Yeah, I gotta listen to that one. I always like listening to Kevin Rose and the way he kind of views the space, and like those podcasts are always super fun conversations to listen to, because it's just big people in this space just having very genuine conversations with each other, right? So definitely something to look for there. I gotta get a look at and listen to see what's going on.
Have you listened to any of Tim Ferriss's podcasts in the past?
No, I haven't heard of any of his podcasts before.
Yeah, I know he's a fairly influential podcaster in the space. Definitely interested there. But we can move on a bit. Maybe we'll talk about the Optimism NFTs on OpenSea. They're now available. OpenSea continues to expand its platform, continues to add new ecosystems, which is always interesting to see. They sort of need to adapt, or eventually buy out if the market does move towards other platforms like that. Do you own any Optimism NFTs, Clemente?
To be honest, I've never heard of Optimism NFT before.
Yeah, it's an L2 chain. I haven't gotten involved with it very much. I know there's some sort of airdrop, and there's a questing system where you have to do a few steps. There's like a DAO. You have to like offer up votes. It was very confusing. I think we shared it in our alpha chat, and people were able to get in and out with that airdrop for completing that. But outside of that, I really haven't touched the ecosystem. I'd love to learn more about it as we expand our analyst staff here. I'd hope to get some more news on other chains, including Optimism, for sure.
Yeah,
a big one that is interesting that I think we can talk about a bit here is the new MetaHero game announced coming out of Pixel Vault. So this looked cool. I mean, there's been a lot of silence, there's been a lot of speculation around Pixel Vault and what they're doing with all this capital. They raise money for all the heroes, the mid passes, the planets was a huge question on like what's going on there. So it's interesting to see this game being teased out a bit. It looks cool. I think they touch on a lot of interesting and key points that will draw people in. The auto battler being not super immersive, not requiring a lot of user input, evening out potentially that skill level there, providing like I think they say there, it's easy to jump in and play, and it's hard to master. I think that's very important for any sort of game development. Also basing abilities in game off the NFT traits feels genius to me.
Yeah.
creating that value across different NFTs that may or may not have been valuable before. I wonder how they'll scale versus rarity. Something to dive into a bit there. I know one of our analysts, Garrett, is very big into the Pixel Vault ecosystem. Would love to have him in and talk a bit on some of that. Would be very cool. But definitely cool to see things coming out of the Pixel Vault universe. Excited to see how this is affecting price moving up. I think we saw a good amount of mint passes bought. We saw the price of the PAL token that is mentioned in that video also run a bit. The initial pump probably over. I don't think I'm jumping into any of these assets based on this news, but outside of that, definitely something to keep an eye on for anybody interested in the Pixel Vault universe or who's holding any of those assets. Moving on, though, we have announcement out of Chimpers. There is a artwork project being launched on Sotheby's by, I'm sure I'm going to butcher this, Sebastião Salgado.
Right. It's Sebastião Salgado.
Okay, you got it. need to have you do this one.
Portuguese. I don't even think he's from Latin America. Keep going. Sorry.
Perfect. No, that was excellent. Apparently, there may be some access for Chimper holders. Head over to the Discord and check that out if you're interested in the project and you are holding a Chimper NFT. We teased this a bit earlier. We saw a 1,000 ETH Mega Mutant sale yesterday. It was reported at 1,000 ETH. The chain shows it as just a transfer. It could have been something OTC, off the books. Not too sure. It was bought by Fragment XYZ. They now hold, I believe, 4 of these total. It's not depicting the new one in their featured, but yeah, they hold 4 of these megas. They're a company that does fractional ownership. Pretty good asset to buy a piece of. I'd say one of the most rare and coveted assets in the Bake ecosystem is the Mega Mutant. So having these assets fragmenting them and offering shares seems like a decent buy. I wonder how that'll play into securities law.
Definitely.
In addition to that,
I was going to say it seems like an expensive advertising tool, but we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah. I mean, the prices have held up. I mean, whoever, I think Maki Big Brother, who bought the original M3 serum that created this, bought it for 300 ETH a year ago, or maybe 350. He's now turned it around for 1,000. So, it's not out of the, I think we all thought it was crazy when it went for what it did back then. I think it's not out of the realm of possibility that these assets in the long term could potentially be some of the grails of the grails. If Yuga continues to deliver, if they are, the OG NFT that people identify with going forward, 5-10 years down the road, there's only a certain amount of these and they're going to be highly coveted. And I know we talked about the other trade. We teased us a bit about this morning. We saw a Trippy trade, and we also saw a Mega Coda. We dove into this wallet a bit for the Mega Coda. I can bring that up again here in a minute. Sorry, my screen cut out on me midway through there. I had to have Clemente jump in and take over the news feed for me. We did it pretty seamlessly, I think, but I lost a lot of my tabs in the process. So I'll load up that wallet. We can talk a bit about that trade. In terms of this Trippy trade, do you know much about this?
No, I do not. But to be honest with you, I didn't think that Trippy ape could get three apes, 3 codas, and an ape land. I didn't know the Trippy skin was that valuable. Although I'm curious which one you'd rather have out of those 2 options.
Yeah, we can check the floor real fast on the Trippies and see like what exactly is listed and how they look in terms of aesthetics. But I'm not one who's super in tune with the ape traits in the market for them. But I mean, yeah, looking here, it makes a lot more sense. A Trippy fur coat. It looks like he immediately relisted for 600 ETH on that trade. So you go three floor bake, 3 codas. That's 60 ETH. 3 of these. 240, that's 300, ape land, 350. So listing it for a profit immediately. Not on the floor though. I don't know how much liquidity there is for some of these over rares, but definitely one to keep a look at for sure. We have that wallet loaded up for that mega code or that mega code of purchase here. Looking at their assets at a glance, mainly Bored Ape, followed by other deed now that they have that mega coda, some other Yuga assets here in Bored Ape Kennel Club, Mutant Ape Yacht Club, some Azuki. Looking at some of their other holdings, they have a decent amount of quality other deed lands. They have a chaos environment. They have 1, 2, 3, 4 lands with codas. This one being the coda that sold recently, that mega. I believe it was a 200 WETH offer was accepted.
Yep.
Yesterday. Yeah.
And I was looking at this wallet. They had been making for the last week or so. They had been making massive bids on other grails in Azuki, in Clone X, and in other side lands. So they were putting in like a couple hundred WETH offer into multiple collections that you'll see. Yeah.
Yeah, I see some of that Azuki's as well. They do have some nice Azuki assets. I was looking through to get an idea for their portfolio valuation here. Coming in, I had it kind of valued at like pretty low based on a base valuation. When you first jump on our website, you'll have your assets valued based on their project floor. But what you can do is you can jump in and you can value projects on their trade floor when that is something you want to be looking at. So, for example, the ape floor right now being 83 ETH, but a king's crown will definitely command a premium, and there are sales there to represent that premium. Seeing as this is a higher floor for this asset, this is an asset that does trade at a higher floor. You can choose to value your assets not only on the project floor but on trade floor, and pick which trait makes the most sense. Sometimes the top trait in terms of price may not matter as much as a more liquid trait potentially. So you can decide which trait matters for your project. Is it just a floor asset potentially? You can also toggle by that. And this is just one piece of the WGMI tooling we offer. We have the news feed, we have all the charting and analytics, and all of these are provided by our all access pass, which is minting now at WGMI.io. If you like some of the tools you see, definitely head over there, take a look at all we have to offer. And each of these morning shows, we're taking DMs. If you DM us the word newsfeed, we'll pick one winner after every show, and we are offering them a 7-day trial to the site, allowing you full access, being able to test it out a bit before you potentially buy it. So if there's something you're interested in, check out our website, send us a DM, and we'll be able to hook you up.
Yeah,
moving on though.
I was gonna say my new favorite pastime is whenever these new big sales come out. I like diving into the wallet because you can just easily plug it into the portfolio feature and just dive into exactly other things that they own, the quantity of it, the cost. So it's just fun to do and to kind of see where their head's at and try to maybe see where they might go, what their next move might be.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also we allow you to add and save wallet groups as well. I add like different funds in there. So like I have Ryan's Carson fund favorited. I have some other funds and vaults and DAOs favorited in here. So I can quickly toggle between these, load up their wallets, and see if they've made any moves, see how the funds are doing in general. So definitely cool to look at, to take a peek at sometimes, see what different funds have been investing in. Moving on back to the news, though, Mike Shinoda, co-founder of Linkin Park, musician, rapper, singer-songwriter, is releasing a project on ETH. There are going to be some allow list spots, Moonbirds and Proof included. He also has a project on Tezos. He's been releasing a bit on Tezos there. He released his project Ziggurats a bit ago. The floor price was around 25 yesterday. It's moving up a little bit in terms of 25 in terms of Tezos. So Tezos is about $1.30 ish. It kind of swings between $1.30, $1.50 per Tezos. So if you are interested in the Shinoda project, buying one of these can get you access to that allow list. So potentially a way to jump in, get involved, and get that allow list early. We have the links to all those collections and the information right on our news feed. We do have an Art Blocks factory drop today, I believe, at 1 p.m. It's a fixed price of 0.3. These are always interesting to see. Versus a Dutch auction, I'm going to be staying away. I know I've been talking a bit about always monitoring the art blocks, making sure that I am jumping in when there's volume, but it hasn't been there for the past few factory drops. The opportunities were fewer and far between. I'm going to sit this one out, I think, regardless of the volume into it, and just see how it plays out. I'll probably wait for the next curated drop to start paying a bit more attention here. We saw the CyberKongz project go live with the Claw. Pretty cool project, and definitely some value to the Kongs here. Coco Bear donated 1,337 NFTs valued at over 1,000 ETH as rewards for this game. So it's part of the play and collect ecosystem. I don't know the exact details, but if you're a CyberKong and you're listening, I'm sure you have an idea of what's going on with the play and collect. I believe this is their 20th season over there. So take a look, make sure you get involved, as there will be some valuable prizes up for grabs. And then rounding out the news, two more news items here. We have new Collab Council picks from Premint. We always alert our Premint holders of the new Collab Council picks. These are generally low barrier to entry Premints, always worthwhile entering in, seeing if you potentially can find a valuable allow list to jump onto. And we saw that Robinhood is beginning to support Polygon assets. They're launching a new wallet that can allow you to hold your Polygon NFTs with your Robinhood account. So interesting to see some of these investment accounts seeing more Web 2 investment jumping into Web 3. The more we see of this, the better. It's probably custodial to begin with, which is good for the masses, I say. Most people don't want to go through the trouble of generating a wallet, remembering a seed phrase, hiding it, making sure it's safe, not having a customer support line to call if there's an issue. So these things are definitely a barrier to entry for the masses. And I think that support for Web3 on these Web2 investing platforms is going to be key to get more users into the ecosystem who otherwise would have been a bit intimidated.
Yep. Absolutely. Ray, I'd love to, as we're wrapping the show up, I'd like to kind of just walk you through and walk some of the listeners through what my project or what I'm watching for the day kind of coincides with the fact that I do own it. It is my PFP. But just a fun breakdown here because I want to get your thoughts on it. So Deadfellas, some of you guys might know, it's been pumping a good amount. It's up about 50% in the last week or so. It was sitting at 0.7 about a week and a half ago. Now it's sitting at 1.07. So it's pumped a good amount. One of the things I will say though is I was looking at the floor difference between Dead Friends and Deadfellas. Dead Friends is the secondary collection. And I was looking at it's about a tenth of the Deadfellas floor, a little bit less than a tenth. So it kind of begs a question like, hey, is this even worth, can you evaluate different assets or the parent and the secondary based off like, hey, it should be a fifth, it should be a tenth? Because initially when Dead Friends minted, it was priced at 1/5 when it first started. And ever since it's gone down, they haven't gotten too much love. I will be watching to see if these make sense. But when they first minted, Dead Friends was at 0.7 and Deadfellas were at 3.2 ETH. Ray, do you have any exposure to the Deadfellas ecosystem? And the other thing I will say is in terms of what to watch for today, Wranglers announced that they're going to be announcing what the next steps in the partnerships with Deadfellas will be. It was brought up that they will have physical items that will be linked to its own digital item in the blockchain. They will be announcing specifically what that item will be. Most people just think it'll be jeans, but it will be interesting to see exactly what it is and who is eligible to win that prize.
Yeah, pretty cool. Definitely awesome to see that they're moving towards that partnership. Physicals Wrangler being a pretty, I feel like, almost conservative type brand in general, jumping into the Web3 space is nice to see. Crazy to see that run. I mean, I need to file that into the information book by Deadfellas before October every year. I think last year,
yeah, right.
we saw, similar. I forget when they released last year.
It begs the question though, Ray. Look, as much as I love Deadfellas, honest, I'm never going to sell the one that I own just because it is my PFP. So I don't really necessarily care whether the price is at 1 ETH or at 10 ETH. although the art does look a lot better when it's at 10 ETH. So I would prefer it to be that. I think it might be time to, I think they will consolidate a little bit. You see listings pop up. They've got down to 417. Now you're sitting at 460, even with the 50 sales that happened yesterday. So as much as I like them, I love the fellas, and I think they're going to do big things in October. If you are in a spot where you're looking to take profits, this could be a really good time to, considering that you're up 50% over the last week. And that is a hard win to find in this current market.
Yeah, I think we almost need to do a show on graphs that look like this, because we've had a number of these lately, and we can revisit, how they've played out since then. I think we were looking at Doodles, Azuki, Deadfellas now, a number of other projects. I think Renga, we saw this. And then we also saw the reverse side of Renga, where we kind of had the opposite happen, and that was a good buying point. It seems like we may be doing a good job of identifying tops. We just need to find some more bottoms to jump into early.
Right, absolutely. And it seems like it is nice, though, looking at it from the outside and just like not necessarily having your bags attached to it, and you take away the emotion part of it, and you can just look at the numbers and say, hey, if I were to jump in, what would I do here? Would I jump in at this point? What would I do? And I think that's kind of also helped us make some of these calls, because we're not so in the weeds, and we can look at it from an unbiased point of view.
Yep, definitely. I think we called the first top on Renga there. I think we called that local bottom as well. And then I think we called another local top over there. So pretty good at that. Now just need to convert that into investment strategy and kind of apply it to the market at large. Maybe get Tom to develop some algorithms, run this data in the background. When you see the Clemente filter, show itself, we can alert our users. We can have the Clemente meter. This is a 90% buy.
Yeah, the decreased listings, decrease in floor price, and over 30 sales a day. That's a buy signal for me, or at least look to put in a ETH offer. So we'll look to see how that does. And now that we're bringing it to light, who knows? It could be that eventually is going to be a sell point for people when it sees it hidden, that because people might be looking to buy. But look, Ray, this is a great show. Thank you for walking the news through with us, and shedding some light on what happened over the last 24 hours, what to watch for going forward. Definitely we'll keep an eye on that QQL drop today. Other than that, thank you guys. We will see you tomorrow for episode 12 at 7:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 a.m. Eastern. Ray, anything to add as we wrap up?
No, I think that's it for me. I'm excited for the show tomorrow.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. Don't forget, if you like what you see, feel free to DM us the word newsfeed, and we will pick a winner to give a 7-day trial to use all of our tools and features. Thanks again.